Good morning and welcome to the EZFX Signal Trading Room broadcast for the 3rd of August, 2016. My name is Bradley Freed, and for the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll be going through our watch list from yesterday, reviewing the trades that we're in, that we were looking at, and that are potentially setting up that we've discovered in the interim. If you have any questions during the broadcast, we have a chat room on this page. You can post your question to the chat, and I will answer your questions live at the end of the broadcast. If you're watching the recording and you have a question or comment or anything, please join the trading room group, or you can alternatively send a private message via the community, or you can send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, and let's just review our watch list from yesterday. We have a lot of watching trades, so I'm not going to look at that right now, but let's look at our new and open trades from yesterday. We had a dollar Swiss buy trade, which is a new trade we were looking at, and all the rest were at, when we talked yesterday, were open trades. The pound dollar buy, the euro pound sell, pound CAD buy, and the pound dollar buy is actually one I've added, so we'll talk about that too. I sent a signal out yesterday to our members. Pound CAD buy, pound Aussie buy, pound Aussie buy, and pound Swiss buy. So we have a big, huge list of stuff here. We had a dollar peso sell, dollar yen buy, CAD yen buy, New Zealand dollar sell, Swiss. I want to kind of go through this, and we're going to sort it out. What's actually worth looking at and what isn't. I sent out a link yesterday to a new analysis report, so I really had time. I spent a few hours, like 3 hours yesterday, going through the currency pairs and the trade setups and really thinking about which ones are worth looking at, which ones I care about, and which ones just really aren't doing anything really clear relative to our trading system rules. And so I was able to come up with a more compact list, which is more useful, especially when we're focusing on so many things already. So let's jump to the charts, and I'm going to go through this list, and we're going to just kind of clean it up and rethink and make sure we're really focused on what we should be. And I would encourage you when you're trading to do that from time to time, because we can be looking at so many things that it's just not useful anymore. And then we become less effective in our trading activities. All right, so I had a dollar yen trade and a dollar peso trade earlier this week, as you know, and I sent a signal and these stopped out. So I tried to sell a dollar peso here because we had a down bubble. We had a triangular moving average that had moved to a bearish signal. It was red, and price had dropped and then recovered a bit, and it looked like it was ready to roll over again and drop further. So I sold it, and we got stopped out on that. So I have an ambition to retrade this, but there's nothing at this point on this pair that's showing me that it's ready to go. So I don't have a new sell bubble. I don't have a triangular moving average rolling over. I don't have a new Class A supply zone. I have nothing. But I'm keeping this on the list just because I want to retrade it. I do have good targets down here. I have the monthly pivot for August. This has never been touched. If I go to the 4-hour chart, you can see that we're bumping right against pretty significant resistance. And this resistance has been in this area, and this, not exactly this price, but in this area has resulted in drops. And this pair has been kind of ranging that way for some time. So I think there's a trade in the offing. I think we tried to get in a little bit too early, but next valid signal, I really want to get in this one more time and try for our targets again, because I think these are right in the middle of where this range moves. I think these are easy lifts to get to, and there's some nice profit waiting there for us if we're patient and if we're focused and if we're watching this so we're ready and alert when the setup happens. So this one stays on the list. Let's get my list back here. Dollar peso sell. I want that on my watch list. Next one is a dollar yen buy. This we also got stopped out on, so this is a potential retrade. This pair dropped further than I thought it would. It's retesting 100. If we go back to our chart here and the Brexit drop, we can see where it's this wick down here went as far as 98.883. And that's extremely significant. I mean, it had been dropping since, for quite a while, really, for well over a year, since peaking here at like almost 127. 126.0, well, 126 and some change. But it hasn't been this low since 2014. So that's a 2-year low. And all this stuff was after 2008. We had a deflationary spiral. We had the currency continuing to break down up through 2011. March 2011, you had Fukushima, then Fukushima nuclear accident, which drove the pair down further. Let's get back to my daily here. But this pair had been falling for quite some time when we look at our weekly chart. Does it have further to go? Yeah, hell yeah, it has a lot further to go potentially. I mean, why did this happen? I mean, this happened because it was a safe haven after 2008. This happened because of deflation in the Japanese economy. Most of all, it happened because of just global insecurity about financial markets. And if we're headed into, after post-Brexit, if we're headed into another period like that, especially if you've got to remember there's a slow motion stock market crash that's still going on in China. They've thrown their pension system, they've thrown all this public money into the stock markets to stabilize it, and they haven't allowed certain stocks to be traded. They've punished investment banks for shorting stocks. They've artificially sort of put the market in stasis, but there's still a stock market crash going on, and it's been going on for 2 years. So a lot of this is also money fleeing China. As people can get money out, they're putting it in the yen as a safe haven. It's the strongest currency, the most stable currency in Asia, and it's a safe haven, just like it was. And I guess this is the point I wanted to make. Just like it was in 2008. Post 2008, this currency was a safe haven, and that drove it very, very high. It went all the way from like 108, well, really 122 in 2007, all the way down to 75. Huge drop. Recovered a lot of its value. A lot of people feel like 100 is fair value for this pair. I mean, that's sort of where the limit would be. But you have to remember, it's done this before. If we go back, I don't have data that far back, but if you go back into the 90s, around 95, this pair did the same thing. Actually, 94, I think we had a drop to below 100, and that was a big deal back then. But we do have precedent for a dropping. It's been dropping hard and fast. It could go a lot further. So don't think that 100 is a barrier. Don't think that we're suddenly going to get a rebound up to 120 or something. It's not necessarily going to happen. There's a lot of things in the world that are affecting this. There's recent precedents in recent years for it dropping a lot lower, and but there's also a lot of resistance, I think, institutionally to keeping it above 100. So this is going to be interesting, but it could go further. And I just want you to kind of absorb that and accept that, and sort of feed that into your ideas about what trades are in the offing in the future on this. Having said that, I want to buy this pair. I do think eventually, we had all this stimulus that the government announced post the election, and the market just hasn't reacted to it at all. It's gone down. The currency, it hasn't anything to do with the currency. So there's no devaluation of the currency going on. The Bank of Japan is not stepping in to do what they did 3.5 years ago as far as devaluing the currency, and so down it goes. But where does it stop? Where is fair value? Where's the point where it turns around and we start to get buyers? What is a catalyst that's going to make this retrace at least up to the monthly pivots up here, like 103? There's going to be something. So I'm willing to buy this pair again. I'm willing to buy it. We already have a Class A zone here. This is very thick, and you can say it's not really valid because it's huge. It doesn't really tell us anything. It's almost useless. But we do have a Class B divergence here. We've had this trend line, which is broken sideways. It's not a big breakout. If I get a triangular moving average, color change to blue, and this is indeed turns out to be a buy bubble, when this line repaints and this band goes beneath it, I'll buy this pair again. And depending on the risk to reward ratio we can get, I can target this monthly pivot. I can target the bottom of this supply zone here. So like 103.321 and 104.824, I get a few hundred pips out of this pair on a brief retracement. I'm not looking for it to rebound to 120 or some silly thing like that. I don't think it's going to happen. There's so much downward pressure on this pair. But there's going to be retracements. There's going to be opportunities. And I think there's one in the offing for this. So I'm at the ready for this, and this stays on my watch list. Sorry that became a long conversation, but the dollar yen is a very interesting pair right now. And it's sort of the basis for all the other yen pairs we're looking at. Okay, CAD yen buy. This is another one we had on our list. I just kind of threw all the yen pairs on the list, anticipating a bubble and a move back. And indeed, this could. We just don't have any buy bubbles on this pair. That could change. We have a band that's close to this triangular moving average line here. If this breaks this trend line and moves up, and we get a color change in the triangular moving average, this could become a bubble. So I want to keep an eye on this as well. I think this is potentially a good setup. It's just like the dollar yen trade. Above we have a monthly pivot, weekly pivot that haven't been hit. And we have the bottoms of these supply zones or additional weekly pivots above where this pair could potentially go. If you look at it on the 4-hour chart, this pair has been moving in a range. And we're now at the bottom of that range. Unless it breaks through and goes lower, which would be something new, it could easily rebound and get as far as this weekly pivot or even as far as this previous Class A supply zone up here. So I like this trade, and I'm watching for an entry on the 1-hour chart. On the 4-hour chart, we have a buy bubble forming right here. And those are significant. So you can even watch this on the 4-hour chart and trade it on that chart. But I'm keeping this. Definitely keeping this. And now my notepad application has frozen. I have to relaunch it. All right, CAD yen, keeping. Interest of time, I'm just going to fly through the rest of these. So Swiss yen, because I can talk, I'm in a talking mood and I could talk for hours, and that's not useful for you. Less clear, could do the same thing on the Swiss yen, but much less clear. I think I'm gonna dump this one. Pound yen buy. Pound yen buy is there's no buy bubble on this pair. I don't necessarily like to trade the pound yen because it's really volatile. It tends to stop us out, so I'm just going to dump it. And again, it's not that valid trades won't sit up on these pairs. It's just that I want to narrow this list because we need to focus. The Euro yen, just like the Swiss yen, I like this more. There's no bubble on this though, so I'd probably just opt to dump it for now. Aussie yen buy. Yeah, this just keeps trending down. I don't think there's anything here compared to the other pairs. There may be, all these things will probably set up at the same time, but I'm just trying to pick the ones that I really want to focus on. I can't trade everything. We have limits on leverage. We have other limits that we have to think about. And the New Zealand yen is just no. I don't see anything here. Again, it may set up. It's not setting up now, so I'm going to take it off the list. We may add it back later. So there we go. We've cleaned it up quite a bit as far as the yen pairs go. Now let's look at our New Zealand dollar sell. This is something I'm interested in, and this has set up. It's given a signal. We have Class A. We have a sell bubble back here, and then we had a triangular moving average color change and a trend line break. This has set up. This trade is open. You could get in. You could have gotten in for like a 72 pip stop, with the first target being 84 at the 50% retracement level, and then 78.6% behind 72 pips. So this is now an open trade. And I talked about this yesterday in the analysis newsletter. I've not sent a signal out on this trade. Euro-dollar sell. Also interesting. This is kind of rolling over. We don't have a bubble here yet, but we almost have a bubble. And as this repaints, I think we will get a bubble. Class A supply zone is formed. Trend line break. Pretty significant trend line. And we're just waiting for a triangular moving average color change to confirm the entry. Profit targets, I mean, the stop would be, profit targets would be this monthly pivot. And what else do we like? Let's draw some fibs to give us a reference point. From the low to the high. We have a 78.6% retracement level. It's just above this weekly pivot. So I think the weekly pivot is not a bad target. It's pretty close, a little bit of a stretch, but that would be good. And then stop loss is going to be right above the highs right here. So it's almost there. It's not quite there. We need that triangular moving average color change. I think it's worth it to be a little bit patient and be more certain. You can never be 100% certain with trades, but let's go ahead and move this to the new column. $2 open. I have not yet sent a signal on either of those. We also have the dollar Swiss. Did we? Yeah, we did. That I've been talking about for a few days now. This has set up, this has opened. It broke out. We don't have the triangular moving average color change yet though. So you can wait for that. If you wait for that, you may need it to retrace for risk to reward. It may or may not do that for you. So just be aware of that. At the moment, this is a better than 1-to-1. We have a 54 pip stop required. We have an initial profit target of the monthly pivot of 71, a final profit target at this weekly pivot from last week of 0.98634 about. And this would currently be, in my estimation, this is open. You know, you can certainly choose to wait a little longer and get that triangular moving average. If you want to, just be aware that you may not be able to get into the trade. And you may not have the same risk to reward ratio that you have now, but I would definitely always opt for caution and waiting for more rather than less. Although I like the look of this. I think this is acceptable. It's showing us that it's doing something new, and it's would certainly be acceptable to go ahead and get in there right now. Let's see, pound dollar. I sent out a signal on this yesterday. This set up for us, so this is now open. I jump to that chart and just talk about it. It's a buy trade, yes, and it's a trend trade. So if you've bought our course and you're looking at and you've done the lesson on trend trading, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, I'm going to explain it to you right now. Let's go to the pound dollar chart. There it is. All right. So what this pair did is we had a supply zone here yesterday, and it had been bumping into that supply zone for weeks, a couple weeks, and then it broke through. And so when it breaks through, if we believe we're in a trend, you know, if our triangular moving average is blue, which is our basic test, then we can go ahead and buy that pair in a trend trade. That's going to be a trend entry, and we can use that supply zone. We mark it with lines on the top and bottom because it disappears from the chart, but we can remember where it was if we draw these lines, and we put a stop loss right below where that zone was. So the supply demand zone gives us a reference point for setting a stop loss, which gives us the ability to size our trade relative to stop loss risk, and then we have a signal based on something happening with an indicator that gives a chance to get into the market to buy to buy or sell the currency pair relative to the zone that's been punched through. So an event has happened. An event has happened relative to supply and demand. Supply and demand has failed, which is meaningful because that means that all the orders have been filled. The supply and demand imbalance that did exist there has been satisfied. And so that means price is then free to move higher to the next supply zone or down to the next demand zone. So this is a significant event, and it's an event that we can trade off of, and we can use the zone that the indicator draws for us as a reference point to draw to set a stop loss and size a trade, which is just perfect. That's just what we want if we're gonna. And this can work pretty well. I don't think it works as well as counter trend, but if you want to get into a trade, if something has already happened, and you weren't able to get into it before, you got stopped out before, and there just hasn't been a good setup, this is the kind of opportunity that could allow you the chance to get into a trend trade on a pair. In this case, we bought the pound dollar. It's given us a class B divergence here. It's kind of moving sideways a little bit after making a new high. I still like it. And our targets are ambitious again. They're just like other pound pairs. So we're going for the monthly pivot here, or we're going for the June monthly pivot for the second profit target. We could even just be trading all the way up to this pre-Brexit class B supply zone up here that was formed before the big drop. So that trade is open now. Aussie dollar sell. I don't know if anything is ever going to happen on that pair. I may just take it off a list for a while because I think it's a waste of time. Yeah, this is just kind of moving around. It's not really, it has no direction. It's not really dropping. It's gave us a sell signal here, but then it changed color again. I just don't think this is worth our time. So I'm going to take it off our watch list. It's no use having 100 pairs on there if we're not focusing on the ones that are really, really, really close to doing something interesting. There will be a valid trade setup for us. Okay, so we've gone through everything. We have our new and open trades. I hopefully will be sending out signals on at least some of these in the next couple of hours. So please be aware of that. Let's run through our pound trades, which are open. The pound dollar buy is open. Oh, I already had that on the list. I'd already added it. So let's just do that. And then let's quickly go to the euro pound. We're running up almost on 30 minutes. I don't want to go over that for your sake as much as for mine. So this has recovered quite nicely. It made a new low in this recent retracement. Hopefully it'll make a new low and go past here, which is the low it made when it initially dropped and when we took out the first profit target when we started this trade several weeks ago, almost a month ago actually. So I'm hopeful that this may resume a downtrend and give us some new lows. Pound CAD, same dealio. We got a new high here. We're bumping into the supply zone here. We have a new little tiny demand zone here, which indicates sort of a buy pressure up. I'm hoping we punch through this and we get to this final profit target to the monthly pivot. Remember, I'm leaving these profit targets open. I'm not setting hard targets. I'm leaving the option open to trend follow and try to go higher all the way to this pre-Brexit drop point up here, which would be awesome, but which might take a while. Pound newsy buy. This has recovered quite a bit. It broke through the trend line. It's moving higher. We've recovered a bit of value on this. The triangular moving average on the 4-hour chart, and I am watching on the 4-hour chart now because that's where I can see the whole move. But it hasn't changed color yet. But a color change and breaking through some of these supply zones would tell me that this is a real retracement that could be a resumption of the previous buy trend. Pound Aussie buy. This has started to recover, but it's still really ranging. It hasn't moved. It hasn't given me a new high relative to this. It hasn't hit its initial profit target. So I'm still holding on to this, and with the hopes that it's going to get to this first profit target in the near future. This week would be nice. Pound Swiss buy. This looked like it was on its last legs. This looked like it was going to die and stop out at break even. We've already taken profit on part of the trade. The stop is at break even, so there's no risk, and this is already a profitable trade, but I'd like to get more. I'd like to get at least to this monthly pivot, or on the 4-hour chart, just like other Brexit trades, get up to this supply zone made right before the Brexit drop happened. But this has recovered quite a bit, which is nice to see, and hopefully it'll break through this supply zone, which has been resistance, and start to go even higher. Okay, so that's all the updates for today. If you have any questions, let me just check and see if anybody's watching live. If there's any questions I can answer. And we don't have anybody watching live, but if you do have any questions, please, you can join the group, the trading room group in the community. Just go to groups, and there's a list of groups you can join, and one of those is the trading room. You can put your question there, and I get an alert on my dashboard, as well as other members will who are members. When there's activity and other people can chime in, I can chime in. You can also, if you go to the members list, you can find me. I'm EZFX, and send me a private message. Or as always, and without hesitation, please send me an email if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, hopefully trading related. EZFXsignal@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow with another Trader Room broadcast. I will hopefully have some new signals for you today. And I thank you for watching this video. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care and goodbye.